Uh, Beckendorf swallowed like he'd forgotten how to breathe. I patted him on the shoulder. Thanks for the advice, dude. Glad you're so wise about girls and all. Come on, let's get to the woods. Naturally, Birkendoff and I took the most dangerous job. While the Apollo cabin played defense with their bows, the Hermes cabin would charge up the middle of the woods to distract the enemy. Meanwhile, Beckendorf and I would scout around the left flank, locate the enemy's flag, knock out the defenders, and get the flag back to our side. Simple. Why the left flank? Because Annabeth wanted me to go right, I told Birkendoff, which means she doesn't want us to go left. Birkendoff nodded. Let's suit up. He'd been working on a secret weapon for the two of us. Bronze chameleon armor, enchanted to blend into the background. If we stood in front of the rocks, our breastplates, helms, and shields turned gray. If we stood in front of bushes, the metal changed to a leafy green. It wasn't true invisibility, but we had pretty good cover, at least from a distance. This stuff took forever to forge, Beckendorf warned me. Don't mess it up. You got it, Captain. Beckendorf grunted. I could tell he liked being called Captain. The rest of the Hephaestus campers wished us well, and we sneaked off into the woods, immediately turning brown and green to match the trees. We crossed the creek that served as the boundary between the teams. We heard fighting in the distance, swords clanging against shields. I glimpsed a flash of light from some magical weapon, but we saw no one. No border guards? Beckendorf whispered. Weird. Overconfident, I guessed, but I felt uneasy. Annabeth was a great strategist. It wasn't like her to get sloppy on defense, even if her team did outnumber us. We moved into enemy territory. I knew we had to hurry because our team was playing a defensive game, and that could not last forever. The Apollo kids would get overrun sooner or later. The Ares cabin wouldn't be slowed down by a little thing like arrows. We crept along the base of an oak tree. I almost jumped out of my skin when a girl's face emerged from the trunk. Shoo! She said, then faded back into the bark. Dryads, Beckendorf grumbled. So touchy. Am not, a muffled voice said from the tree. We kept moving. It was hard to tell exactly where we were. Some landmarks stood out, like the creek and certain cliffs and some really old trees. But the woods tended to shift around. I guess the nature spirits got restless. Paths changed, trees moved. Then suddenly, we were at the edge of a clearing. I knew we were in trouble when I saw the mountain of dirt. Holy Hephaestus, Beckendorf whispered. The anthill. I wanted to back up and run. I'd never seen the anthill before, but I'd heard stories from the other campers. The mound rose almost to the treetops, 4 stories at least. Its sides were riddled with tunnels, and crawling in and out were thousands of myrmikes, I muttered. That's ancient Greek for ants. But these things were way more than that. They'd given any exterminator a heart attack. The myrmikes were the size of German shepherds. Their armored shells glistened blood red. Their eyes were beady black, and their razor-sharp mandibles sliced and snapped. Some carried tree branches, some carried chunks of raw meat that I really didn't want to know about. Most carried bits of metal, old armor, swords, food platters that had somehow found their way out here from the dining pavilion. One ant was dragging a glossy black hood of a sports car. They loved shiny metal, Beckendorf whispered, especially gold. I've heard that they have more gold in their nest than Fort Knox. He sounded envious. Don't even think about it, I said. Dude, I won't, he promised. Let's get out of here while we... His eyes widened. 50 feet away, 2 ants were struggling to drag a big hunk of metal towards their nest. It was the size of a refrigerator, all glittery gold and bronze, with weird bumps and ridges down the side, and a bunch of wires sticking out of the bottom. The ants rolled the thing over, and I saw a face.